Good evening. Welcome to WFUZ-TV, the People's Voice podcast. I'm Blair Castro, and I'm here today with Thomas Jenkins. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Nicole Jones Wadsworth, who's in the studio with us today. She's running for Lieutenant Governor right here in the state of Alabama. Dr. Jones Wadsworth, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited you came all this way to Gulf Shores to be on our podcast. I think that speaks a lot to your character and means a lot that you would come out here and chat with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long day on the road, but certainly worth it to be on your show. I've been following y'all for a couple of months now, and I'm really impressed how you really give your audience an opportunity to dive deep into what's going on in Alabama politics.
Oh, thank you so much. And she will be at our forum on Tuesday. And I hope you can all come out to the Gulf Shore Civic Center. That's going to be a really big, great, fun event. So hoping you can join us. So we'll get right into it. And I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit about the role of Lieutenant Governor. So I'm from a state, Florida, where they usually run as a, one ticket, the governor and lieutenant governor together. So this is my first election cycle getting to actually vote on a lieutenant governor in a state. Can you tell us a little bit about what their role is?
Sure. So as you said, the lieutenant governor and the governor, they run separately. They also could even be different parties if they really wanted to, although we do have a supermajority here in the state of Alabama. But the role of the lieutenant governor is to preside over the Senate, vote in case of a tie, and then make appointments. But you also need a lieutenant governor who is able, ready, and willing to steady the ship if something should ever happen to our governor, whether it be, death, illness, incarceration. I mean, it could be a plethora of things. The role of lieutenant governor was actually stripped of a lot of its formal power in the late 90s. The legislature took that power away, but you do have a lot of mobility to do more of the office than what it legally requires. And that's what I'm wanting to do, is treat it like a full-time job instead of a part-time job, and use my background in business, contracts, and economic development to touch on 5 key areas that will help every Alabamian, no matter where you live.
So let's get into that and ask about what those 5 areas are. I know your website is the Build Back America? Build Back Alabama?
Build a Better Alabama.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I was reading about that of your plan, so I wanted to hear a little bit about the details of that.
Sure. So, again, I'm in site selection and commercial real estate development. I'm in the private sector. So my plan, called Build a Better Alabama, literally has to do with my job. Over the past 20 years, I've been able to visit all 67 counties over 25 times on my own dime, not the taxpayers' dime, before I asked for anybody for a vote. And it's through meeting with my clients and their families and constituents in urban and rural markets that no matter where I've traveled, the same 5 key issues have kept coming up. So I've devised a plan called Build a Better Alabama that will focus on the areas of industry recruitment and retention, workforce development, statewide infrastructure improvements, rural health care, and public safety. Would you like me to elaborate a little bit about how I can help folks in those areas?
Yeah, definitely, especially rural healthcare. That stood out to me as something. We're not even rural, but we have, healthcare struggles here, like in the city as well. So, yeah, please do.
Well, the industry recruitment and retention and the workforce development, those issues go hand in hand. As Lieutenant Governor, I want to make sure that every Alabamian, from the high school student to the veteran, has a clear path to a good paying job. Why? Because when Alabamians are working, we all benefit. It keeps people off welfare, it reduces recidivism, and it gives a man or a woman a sense of purpose by being able to pay for something with a paycheck that he or she has earned. For whatever reason, there were about 20 years where business and education didn't speak to one another. And in many ways, we're reaping what we've sown, because we're in a severe deficit in many of our skilled trades, our plumbers, our electricians, our welders, our beauticians. I want to make sure as Lieutenant Governor that every Alabamian, whether you have a credential, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a PhD, you are worthy and you are able to be employed by Alabama's diverse industries. Another really important component that goes along with that is our infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I mean our roads, our bridges, our ports, and our broadbands. I'm an economic development professional, and I know that it takes approximately 10 years from the time that a civil engineer is drawing out road plans to the time that constituents are actually driving on that highway. Could be highly political, but as Lieutenant Governor, I'll be able to have a voice and speak with our federal partners, whether it be our United States senators, our congressmen, President Trump, whomever that next president is, or the United States Department of Transportation, to make sure that the taxpayer dollars that we're already paying in regardless are brought back to the state of Alabama where they belong. That's a quality of life issue. It's an industrial recruitment issue. I mean, I dealt with it personally on my way here probably every day. I mean, how many of us have dealt with issues on 65? I don't know anybody that, in the state of Alabama that hasn't gotten stuck on a highway because of just congestion and growth. Our port, we're in South Alabama. That port is critical to every industry in all 67 counties. In late fall, I was at the Port of Mobile with Senator Tuberville, former Senator Shelby, and many people in the public and private sector celebrating a long-term economic investment in ourselves, and that's the 50-foot channel depth of the Port of Mobile. Whether you're in agriculture, aviation, automotive, biotechnology, chemicals, metals, advanced materials, forestry, defense, all of those industries flow through that port. And now we can utilize our own system instead of, for example, having to pay the Port of Savannah. I mean, we were having to, when ships would have cargo in, they'd have to unload in the water and then bring them back into our shorter channel before. We don't have to worry about that anymore. But Alabama also has a series of inland ports that are vital to commerce. That's your Port of Huntsville, your Port of Guntersville, Port of Demopolis, the Birmingham Intermodal Facility, and the Montgomery Intermodal Facility that's set to open in the first quarter of 2027. People don't really think about internet being infrastructure, but y'all know broadband internet, that's part of
Absolutely.
That infrastructure.
We've tried to bring that up locally because down here in Gulf Shores, it's absolutely terrible. The broadband, there aren't many options and they're not quality options at all.
Well, and it's interesting that you said that. With as populous as Gulf Shores would be, you would think that there would be some more choices. And in 2017, I started serving on a series of focus groups where the public and private sector started talking to one another about how to connect their communities. And you connect your community, you connect your economy through broadband. And it helps your industry, it helps your schools, it helps your healthcare system, which brings me to my next point, which is our rural healthcare. That affects every Alabamian, no matter where you live, for a lot of reasons. For one, when Alabamians are healthy, they're working. When folks are working, we all benefit. Think of it as part of an economic development ecosystem. But then you also have to think about, there are so many long-term diseases that are precursors to serious health issues that can be dealt with if people have access to primary care. I know this. I represent a lot of physicians. I have brought rural health care to the state of Alabama for a living. We represent one client, for example, who was able to earn a $700,000 federal grant to practice in 2 economically impoverished Alabama counties. And what he did with part of that money is he purchased a van where staff can go to folks' homes who don't have transportation, because that's also a barrier in a lot of rural areas. He picks the patients up, brings them to the doctor, and then brings them back home. And what this has done is it not only has gotten people healthy again and back into the workforce, but some of those patients have actually shared that they have a stable job now and a paycheck where they're able to purchase a vehicle of their own. So it really is all connected. And sometimes you have to be creative with rural health care. And as a business owner, as somebody from the private sector, as Lieutenant Governor, I want to be able to share those type of ideas, because obviously one company can't necessarily represent 5.1 million Alabamians.
Sure.
But as Lieutenant Governor, I'll have that staff and I'll have that voice and be able to elevate some of those issues that matter. And I have to say, I loved your license plate when I pulled into your studio today.
Thank you.
About supporting law enforcement. I mean, y'all had a it's kind of the fifth part of my Build a Better Alabama plan. But Baldwin County had a really nice event here last week. Were you there
at the Heritage Park? I didn't get to go, but I knew a lot of people that were there throwing it.
That was a fantastic for first annual event. They supported police, sheriffs, ICE, EMT, and I pose the question when it comes to public safety, or when I speak to folks, I say, at some point over the course of your life, you're going to need access to a police officer, a firefighter, a sheriff, the military, either directly or indirectly, or EMS. And as Lieutenant Governor, I want to ensure that the men and the women willing to put themselves forth will have access to the training, the tools, and the resources needed to protect and serve with excellence. They put their lives on the line for us. The least that we can do at the government level is give them access to the tools and the respect that they need to do their job. And I think the most important thing about me being different in this race is not only am I not a career politician, everything that I'm advocating for, I have done as a member of the private sector, either through my company, on a board or committee, or as an individual. And that's what we need in a lieutenant governor, who's somebody who understands business, who's not tied down to political games, and will truly work for the people of Alabama and do something different to make our state better.
I'm really impressed. That's a very thorough plan. I have so many questions. It's like, where do I start? I wanted to go back to the healthcare. Is telehealth or like remote access an option for some of that? Or can we put that into the atmosphere to like be considered?
Absolutely. And that, the telehealth is kind of that bridge between the internet infrastructure and the rural healthcare, because so many of our rural partners can rely or do rely on high-speed broadband to provide services. And I'll give you an example. I represent a client who is from rural Cherokee County that is a mental health practitioner who participates in a program called TalkSpace. It's an app where if one of her patients is having a mental health crisis, he or she can dial in on the app, whether they're at home, at work, at the grocery store, and they can get that immediate care. And her company has literally, through that instant service, been able to keep people from committing suicide. So whatever pockets of Alabama don't yet have broadband, again, as a lieutenant governor, I can't vote on anything, but I can use my voice and make sure that we're partnering with whomever we need to on the federal, state, and local level, and also our private sector partners to make sure that people are connected.
It would be really good to have a leader at the state level to kind of bridge those gaps between like local and county and state. Sometimes I'm thinking about like I have an autoimmune disease and I have to drive to Pensacola just to see a specialist. We don't even have a primary care doctor place here in Gulf Shores, and we mostly got to go to Foley or Mobile. So it's always like, and that's okay for some, some instances, but then there are people like when I drive, it's painful because I have arthritis and like my joints swell up. So it's like, okay, it would be nice to have a telehealth option. It would be nice to have other options for people in those situations. So it's something we talk about a lot. Our own mayor has to drive to another city to get treatment for things. It's important, and not just rural, like the whole state seems to have sort of a gap there that I would like to see filled. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry that for folks that have to drive farther, that's tough, especially if it's a follow-up visit, if it's something required for insurance, maybe a prescription refill. To be able to do that on your phone, it saves time, it saves gas. Mm-hmm. If it's just a routine visit, that helps a lot of people by having another option. And I will tell folks, of course, we were talking a little bit before your show about I'm a Republican, I'm a lifelong Republican. I want to do more with the office than just tell you I'm a lifelong Republican, but I am pro-life, I am pro-faith, I am pro-Second Amendment. I'm a former board member of the Alabama Federation of Republican Women. I have served on numerous boards and committees in the areas of business, philanthropy, and conservative causes. I have volunteered for President Donald J. Trump for all 3 of his campaigns, including 2 out-of-state deployments to battleground states. I was in Florida, actually, in 2020 and in Georgia in 2024. And In the Atlanta Metro in 24, I won top door knocker with the Trump campaign at 400 doors a day.
Wow.
So, y'all, if that's not boots on the ground, I don't know what is. I made the joke in Birmingham this weekend at the party meeting that if folks want to lose 10 pounds, come on and volunteer door knocking with our campaign.
You really are everywhere. Like I was thinking about Lieutenant Governor race, and you see a lot about it in the news with some of these people who are considered the front runner, but I've actually only met like 2 candidates in that race, but it's a pretty crowded field. And I think, grassroots, in my opinion, is the way to go, because who's actually coming to your meeting, showing up at your county? I think it's absolutely amazing that you went to all 67 counties, multiple, you say, at least 2 times each?
I went, I actually, before announcing for the office, I visited all 67 over 25 times over the course of my career, so over 2 decades, really learning the state. And, some of these online blogs don't report that I've raised between $300,000 and $400,000 from, real people, real companies. We've all loaned ourselves a little bit of money to get started. Every candidate, has done that, because you have to run statewide and it costs a lot of money. And the advertising budget, it's an advertising budget. That's why you raise money. I don't think the general public understands that money does not go to the candidate. It goes to a committee. And we have to market all 67 counties very differently based on the local population. An example is, we have 3 counties in the state of Alabama that are what's called orphan counties. That means they get out-of-state news. So you have Russell County and Chambers County that get Georgia news, and then you have Lamar County that gets Tupelo, Mississippi market news. So you might look to Facebook, or you might look to other in-person meetings or different types of digital and print media to market those people. So it does take a lot of money, but I don't just want to be an advertisement. I want to make sure that I'm there and people can ask questions, and that I'm genuinely meeting with the people that I hope to represent as Lieutenant Governor of Alabama.
That's very commendable.
Thank you.
I haven't seen another candidate in that race really going as boots on the ground as that. So
thank you.
I wish more races had people willing to get boots on the ground and come to these things.
Yeah.
I would ask a lot of other candidates that we've had on the show, and one thing that we bring up is food independence statewide and support for agriculture. And related, unrelated, we see these solar farms and such data centers going up in rural parts of the state. Where do you stand on those things, and how can you be a voice of support for agriculture and farms?
Sure. So no farms, no food. Agriculture is a national security issue. I will always support agriculture. My family was originally in agriculture. We need to be very, very careful, because I'm sure everybody knows that China and other foreign adversaries are buying up agricultural land. And you really have to understand, from a war standpoint, if you want to take out a country, you take out their food supply, you take out their infrastructure. So it may not seem like a big deal when it happens, but it is happening. So we need to make sure that we are doing whatever we can to not only protect the industry, but train up that next generation of farmers, and also help folks understand that there are many, many careers in ag, even if you don't necessarily want to be in the field. And I'll give you an example. I'm from Huntsville. We have Hudson Alpha Institute for Biotechnology. And in 2012, I took a class called Agricultural Genomics, where we studied hybrid beef, we studied hybrid plants, and literally learned the process of how does the food get from farm to table. Now in Dothan, Alabama, in Houston County, Hudson Alpha is constructing a campus where they are studying the genome of the peanut, because approximately 75% of our nation's peanuts are produced within about a 90-mile radius in Dothan. So yes, you can be on the farm, but yes, you can also be part of the science of it. You can be an agribusiness. Our son wants to be an agribusiness attorney. So there are plenty of career paths out there. We also have to make sure our urban kids are introduced to farming as well. I know some cities around the state have had what is called urban farms, just to show kids that not everything comes from Publix. This is how you grow things. And teaching people who don't know how to farm, how to grow their own vegetables, for example. I mean, you can't get any healthier than, tomatoes out of your own garden. I think it's really, really important. As for the data centers, full disclosure, I don't represent any data centers. I do know there are some meetings that have gone on the federal level to help mitigate the potential cost to consumers for electricity, because I know everybody's concerned over rising electricity costs associated with data centers. It's estimated that approximately one data center powers about 180,000 homes. So as a result of some recent meetings in Washington, there is a push to get the companies that are putting this in to fund their own power grid, so that money isn't passed on to the everyday Americans or everyday Alabamians. That's the last thing that we want, is the taxpayer to pay the brunt of somebody else's business ambition.
Sure.
So
how do you stay informed of all that's going on in the state and all these different varieties of issues? It's hard to keep up. It feels like I try my best to, but what are your processes for staying informed on everything?
Well, it's my field, economic development and site selection. It's a field that I've been in for the majority of my life. I was actually interviewed over 300 times on economic policy. Again, before entering this race, my husband and I started going through, I guess, the digital age of interviews started maybe around 2014. So we went all the way back to 2014 and found all of these interviews and compiled them as a plethora. So when people look at me as a lieutenant governor candidate, they know, I know what I'm doing. I've assisted with some of these projects. I've helped inform the public about some of these issues that are going on. And, let's work together and let's build a better Alabama together.
Yeah, I remember that now. Her website has a very robust news section, like all the past articles of everything you've been, like, it is long. There's a lot there that you've been doing. So would definitely encourage you all to check out her site and read about that.
Thank you. And so I'll ask y'all a question on your podcast. Hannah, what led you to found the WFUZ-TV podcast, or kind of what brought y'all to this point? Because this is wonderful.
I'll let him answer that.
Okay.
Oh, wow, I got to do it. So, WFUZ-TV, I have a brand called Fuzzy Fiddler because I'm a violinist.
Okay.
And so I have something called the Fuzzy Fiddler Mission. I come from a military family and have a law enforcement background. So thank you. Sales from stuff like that associated with that go toward. I teach music lessons to veterans and first responders with PTSD.
That's fun.
And so that's kind of the overarching thing. When we met a little over a year ago, we started, I had an issue and needed to go to the county government to have it dealt with. And I dealt with a few different offices around the county and a few different other agencies around, and it was just getting nowhere. And just got really worked up and went and raised hell at a county commission meeting and took that and put it on video. Then we kind of made a little video about it. And then along after that, we were introduced to a guy named Jimmy Fuson. I don't know if you've kept up with that story or not. Yep. He's a guy that's fighting DHR to get his child back that was taken from birth. So, and that kind of took everything off. Am I kind of summing it up?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying yes. Yeah.
Basically, we were unhappy with the systemic failures of our local government. And I'm from Pensacola. People act like that's, forever away. I'm from like the Perdido side of Pensacola. So it's really like 45 minutes away, but it's a whole different county. And the way it's logistically set up in Florida, just so close, was such like a different dynamic in Alabama to come here and try to navigate it. And I felt like there wasn't a lot of transparency or accountability when I went to like local leaders, particularly in the city. And we started kind of calling it out in these videos. And it was funny because, we're almost to our 50th episode. We're almost to our 1 year mark. Started as like selfie videos with us, and then we had interviews, and then we went through the city elections and had candidates, and I ran for city council unsuccessfully, sadly. But we ended up getting to know like all of the people who never would talk to us at first. Some of those county commissioners that were there originally, now like we have a really good relationship with. We can call them anytime. They call us for things. I've been working in politics for 21 years, so it was just a switch from navigating Florida to Alabama, but I felt like there was a lot going on. So it was just a struggle to communicate. We wanted to make sure the public understood like navigating these systems and that they did have rights and that, you can make a difference. We really wanted to encourage citizen engagement, especially with the elections, and voter turnout is very low here, sadly. And I was like, man, if we could just raise the voter turnout and call for we things that we thought were kind of corrupt in the voting process. We're big on voting transparency and polling.
And like you said, with the orphan counties, we have Mobile News and we have Pensacola News, but we don't really have anything in between.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're kind of doing the stopgap, right?
Well, there's a lot of exciting things going on in Gulf Shores all the time. So
sure.
I'm glad that they have you, and with all the festivals. And I know, is it Ballyhoo?
Mm-hmm. That was today.
Festival.
Yeah.
And then y'all had was it the Seafood Festival last weekend? Or was it another part of the state?
Fort Morgan had a seafood festival.
Yeah, the Oyster Festival.
They have the Shrimp Fest every year. And it's such I love living here. I mean, I wanted to move here. I don't want people to think I'm like critical, which is I don't like to be here. I mean, I love it here. And we actually felt like when you go to these meetings in Stockton or Bay Minette or wherever it is on the north end of the county or Daphne, we're really the only people from Gulf Shores that show up. Like a lot of people from this city are stuck in their little bubble and they don't see the whole of the county or the state. And I wanted to kind of raise awareness and get people to come out and care about the whole county.
I'm glad that you're telling people when to vote, because we have maybe 1 out of 4 registered voters who vote in the primaries. So we've actually on my flyers, my brochures, and our billboards are putting Republican primary May 19th in big black and yellow letters that stands out to let folks know. Because I have some of the most brilliant clients in the world, y'all. But when they say, I can't wait to vote in November, we're a red state, please vote Tuesday, May 19th. And, the legislature moved that up a week, which was a wise decision, because originally that election was slated for May 26th, the day after Memorial Day. And if you could imagine how many people go out of town, what you'd be, how few people would be voting that day. At least we know everybody will be in town. Schools may still be in session if people have grade school kids or right in that cusp where they'll be around.
So in your race, is there a potential for a runoff?
It's me and 6 men, so 7. I would love to get 50% of the vote, y'all. I'm going to give myself a plug. Vote Nicole. Remember me. Yes, I'm the only woman on the ballot, but I am the most qualified on the ballot. We, of course, when you have that many people in a race, that's a possibility. There's a couple of other races that are in the Republican primary who are in the same boat. So I'm going to work hard until May 19th. If it goes to a runoff and we're in this until June, then we'll do that as well. But either way, I'm going to be working as hard just as I have for Alabamians for many, many years.
Do you know when that runoff would be in June, if there is one?
Yes, I believe it's June 16th.
Okay.
And I would have to double check on my calendar, which I don't. I'm going to just pull out my phone and tell you.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that until somebody mentioned it last night for the congressional races, that there could be a runoff. And I was like, oh, I guess there could be.
I'll give you the exact date. Yeah, Tuesday, June 16th would be the runoff, primary runoff.
Can you tell us a little bit about your personal life and what it's like living here in Alabama?
Sure. So, we are a family. Everybody travels. Though we do have my husband, Tim Wadsworth. He's a member of the legislature. He's an attorney by trade. He has a master's in tax. He actually was a CPA before he became an attorney. He has a lot of tax clients, and he's kind of getting ready right now because we've got the March 15th corporate returns, the April 15th personal returns. And when you're in the legislature and you're an attorney, you work Mondays and you work Fridays and then sometimes on Saturdays. So this is a very, very busy time with his practice and then, of course, his legislative work. And I'll brag on my children. We have 3 shared children. We have 2 in college, 1 grown. Our son and daughter are both at the University of Alabama. They're a year apart. Our daughter wants to be a physician, so she is in the lab all the time. She's a biology major because that checks all the boxes for medical school. And then our son is a finance major, finance economics. And he wants to go to law school, do the JD MBA track. He's very interested in agribusiness. He really wants to kind of have a little niche and be a real estate attorney, agribusiness attorney, focus on more of the corporate side of business rather than the nitty gritty family law stuff. He doesn't have a stomach for that. So I'm glad he's figuring that out early, which makes it easier. So he's not changing his plans like many kids do when they're in college a bunch of times. So as a parent, I'm happy that, they have solid goals and they're working really hard. But, they're helping with the campaign too. They both were in Birmingham with us for the Alabama Republican Party State Executive Committee reception and meeting. I told them they have two roles. One of them, of course, is to recruit volunteers, their friends, to help with Nicole for Alabama, my lieutenant governor campaign. But also, they need to help get kids to the college Republican meetings. So when you look at a school like the University of Alabama, we need more than 10 kids showing up. Yeah. They need to be informed. They need to be engaged because there will be another party trying to reach those people if we don't. So get the young people engaged, get them informed, help people understand that decisions that are made politically affect you as young adults all the way until, your elderly years. So I think getting them informed early. Our two grew up with me going to Republican meetings, saying the Pledge of Allegiance, helping pick up plates if people left them at the end of a breakfast. So, they're used to being engaged civically. But, some of their friends, unless they have a parent who's interested, you might not know how to get involved. So I tell them, get them involved. Then our son, we have a son who's a forester, and he works primarily in Alabama and Mississippi. He's very, very smart. He does a lot of consulting. He's considered more of an expert in his field. So again, very, very proud of all three of them and their accomplishments in life.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell people where they can find out more information or where they could potentially donate to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nicole for Alabama, all spelled out, is my website. NicoleForAlabama. It has links on there to all of our social media pages. We also have a donation contribution link through the secure WinRed server. We have folks that have donated $3. We have folks that have donated $5,000. Every dollar, if you think it doesn't matter, it absolutely does. It really helps us with our advertising budget, being able to reach more people. I am in this race to win it. If you are able to give $5, that would mean the world to me and my campaign. If you're a company and want to do a larger donation, there is no limit on the amount that you can contribute in the state of Alabama elections. And again, you can contribute as an individual. You could contribute as a company. There's a different set of laws from the federal election as far as those levels. There is no limit in your levels. So, y'all, if you can help, thank you very much. Facebook, I love Facebook. We try to update that every day. I was in Selma earlier this morning for a prayer breakfast in Dallas County, and we plugged that today. I'll probably put your interview or a picture of us on there later on today. And we also upload those photos that I put on Facebook on the website. We have all of the news articles from the campaign on the official campaign website. I also have a website about my career, which is NicoleJonesWadsworth.com, that has those 300 plus interviews on it. If you want to look at the human side of me outside of the lieutenant governor's race, you can learn more about me that way as well.
Thank you so much for coming here. And everybody remember, it's May 19th to vote in the Republican primary. Nicole Jones Wadsworth. I know that you have my vote, so.
Well, thank you. I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You too.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
you so much. Thank you.